So today we are building an extra shelf for the back of the kitchen here. This is the template cutout that I used to stencil onto the diamond plate, which will be that surface up there. And that leaves me enough room for 2 propane cylinders to have basically koozies around them and then be stuffed up and in there. I get a lot of questions about how I trace intricate shapes like these ones in the interior here. There's all sorts of weird changes to the way that the lines run. So a lot of people ask about that and instructions for this, so I'll get to that in a minute. But basically, if you're doing it yourself, which I recommend doing because not everything is built identically, just tracing cardboard. Do your best to just kind of eyeball it. Is what I did with this, is I wanted to figure out what my angle was to go in. So I folded this along this line that I knew was my 90, and I kind of butted it up and I found the shape that I wanted. I measured the distances that I needed, and then I used a subtractive method where I added this to this piece here along that fold line and traced that, and then added everything else that I needed just kind of freehand, and then put this up there and then continued to slowly cut away. This is just a hardened piece of roofing board, or ceiling board rather. But I just continued to trim this away until it was pretty close to symmetrical and fit the profile of the shape that I wanted. And with this, because it was symmetrical, the way to normalize the discrepancies from side to side is to place it on the surface, trace it, and then flip it on its z-axis over, essentially, and then trace it again. So I did that with pencil, and you'll see there are 2 pencil lines. There's one, and then there's the other. So I just broke the line in between as the line that I'm going to actually cut. So you put the mean of the two lines is kind of dissolved there. So you get a kind of more symmetrical shape, although you can't really tell because it looks pretty close to anyway. But yeah, that's going to be just a little additional up here that'll kind of cover the water bags. I've got new water bags coming. If they get too much light, you can get algae to grow in them. So I'm going to put some sort of a canvas bag around them. This surface top will stop here. I'll still be able to see out through those upper holes of the tire when backing up. I still do use those. So the koozies that'll be holding the propane will only be there when I'm using propane. But yeah, that little surface will be coming today. And then as for, I don't think I have really good instructions necessarily for the thing in the back, but this is, well, that was what I was going to be doing for the TJ. I was going to build a pop-up for that and a backbone structure inside the top, but as it came for the back decking system, this is pretty much, that's the kind of the shape of this. It's not very accurate. This is all just kind of roughed out, kind of spec'd out as I was trying to come up with the way to design it so that the seats could still fold and the hinge could still work and everything was still proper. So those are pretty much the dimensions of that first piece that sits, and the subwoofer goes here, and this is all the weird contours on the side. But yeah, if someone's looking for that, that's right there. And then also I get a lot of questions or comments about people not having the equipment to do a lot of this stuff. And to be honest with you, I don't usually either. I just recently kind of expanded my tool collection. That jigsaw I've had since I was, I think, 20 years old. And I bought it for 25 or 30 bucks at Home Depot in Bangor, Maine. And I have made more things with that one jigsaw than most people could imagine. This is how I cut stuff. I will set it on those, and I will lubricate it with WD-40, so it's pretty cheap. I mean, it's not like it's an expensive project by any means. If you're doing the shaping at the end of it, I do have a lot nicer set. I just recently got the DeWalt 20-volt max system, so my angle grinders are in that, which I really like. But I do have an older plug-in Skill one, which I think, again, this was like $50 or $25 or $30 again. I've had that for quite a few years. But I mean, if you want to build stuff, it's pretty easy. You don't have to make it perfect. There's lots of little tiny errors along the way. I cut this with a skill saw, so I mean, from a distance it looks great, but if you get really close, this side is just a little bit recessed from the edge here. And then if you look at how long the diamond is, it's right there. And then when you get to this side, it's a little bit further out and it overhangs. So there are tolerances that you just have to kind of be accepting if you're not going to use the more you know, professional table saw style tool. If you're just going to use a skill saw, that's the kind of quality you're more than likely going to get, or for my at least experience with those tools. But you can still get the job done and it will still do the trick you need. So I'd recommend, you know, going at it either way. But yeah. And then also, not so Jeep related, but I did just start the garden season. I just rototilled. I have an electric rototiller, which is pretty awesome. And I have my water tanks, 2,500 gallons completely full of rainwater. And this is going to be burned down. I'm going to try and make some different soil amendments from this. It'll be a little different this year. But all the larger beds are now sowed, tilled, and I still got to rake them and then just keep soaking them for the next couple of days to get all the seeds to pop up. But garden season's here too.